Sergio, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
I know we go back a little bit, a couple of years we've known each other, and I have to admit, Sergio's had a lot of traction with his business, Tackle AI, and I passed on the opportunity before a lot of that traction. So it's something I feel like I had to admit, but we've stayed in contact, and I appreciate your entrepreneurial mind and your ability to build a business. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This will be a lot of
So you're on this path of really taking Tackle AI to the next level. And so I'm curious on, what are some things that have shaped you as a person that brought you to being a founder and a CEO?
I think just the constant need to build stuff. Ever since I was young, right? I started programming when I was 11 or 12 years old. I had this innate thing to want to constantly learn. And like I said, I just have this thing where I feel like I can solve problems faster than most. So I think that when I come to a problem and it's kind of in the back of my head and I can't really let it go. And some of the stuff that I do, particularly around tackle, is was so new and innovative. It's cool to always be like on the forefront, right, on what's cutting edge. And when we started, that's when we didn't really know what we were doing. And AI was kind of seemed like super futuristic. And now that we're doing what we're doing and people are seeing it and using it on a daily basis, I think it's cool that we're kind of in the hottest space before, other people kind of knew it was coming.
So your ability to think ahead, see solutions to problems, part of it innate, part of it potentially environment. What are things that you were exposed to that you think led you to your abilities or desire to go after these types of things?
So for me, I've always had a very mathematical mind, and everything kind of I've done in my career has kind of been some sort of math. Whether it was when I was younger, helping my parents with finances because they had, a bunch of businesses, just not really figuring out what to do with their finances, but letting them know, hey, this is calculating their taxes and figuring out, payroll and things like that. Because they had a heating and air conditioning company and then eventually restaurants that I would help with. But as I grew up, I would say having kind of good people around me, having a family that gave me, even though they've never given me direct money, they always gave me that safety net of I could go do crazy shit, and if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna be okay. My wife and my son will still eat, right? We're not gonna lose where we live. So I've always thought that was a huge advantage I had. I think a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I'm self-made. Kind of, it's tough to risk what we have to risk sometimes to do what we do without knowing, what you do if it doesn't work out. And luckily, I've had that, that safety net to kind of let me do crazy stuff and get away with it. Luckily, I never needed anything, but it was there if I did.
Yeah, that's nice. How about you and I share a common experience of having brothers growing up? And I know you're the oldest, so how has that been? How has that been a thing in your life and impacted maybe your entrepreneurial spirit?
It's weird in that because with us, I come from a family business. My parents had multiple businesses, but I think my dad always had this thought of us all working with him, and they do. Both of my brothers work with them, but I remember him kind of putting us in what we were good at. So he's like, hey, Sergio, you're not very good at sales. So you are going to do, you do numbers. Right. And since I was young, since I was, 14 or 15, it was like, hey, you do the numbers and you do, leave the negotiations and the sales to your brother David, because he's very good at it, and then Eric. But it turns out that I actually am fairly good at sales. I think it was a way of trying to structure it, right? Like, hey, this is how the businesses are going to run. And my brother is very good at sales and he is very good at these things. But I think there was always this thing of super competitive with each other.
Mhm.
And I think me growing up, I just didn't want to compete with them in the same businesses. I'm going to go do my own thing fairly young. And I think when you come from a family business and you have brothers, I think when you're the first son, you're kind of trying, they're kind of trying to figure out. And I think sometimes families and parents, and I'm trying not to be this way with my son, because I keep asking him when he's going to come work at Tackle. He's a very, very good programmer. And he keeps telling me that he's not going to work if he's going to buy Tackle AI. So I'm like,
I
kid,
love
there's nobody better and I want to sell Tackle AI to than you.
you're teaching it well.
Yeah, exactly. So I love it. But I think I think that, yeah, pretty early on, right? You get, I think overworked in something that, you don't really own that much. But what I did get to see with my brothers and my dad was just um, an insane work ethic, that was really helpful, especially the middle brother. Just the amount of work he would put into what they were doing was pretty
That's
great.
awesome. How about just family generally? You're close with your family. Your dad's one of 13. Just like the,
It's weird. I tend to not be too close with a lot of family. I'm close with my brothers and my father and mother. And by close, I mean I talk to them like once every 2 or 3 weeks. But I think that's a way of getting along. I think my father and I are very similar in the way that we are, and you can't get us around for too long of a period. Uh, we never fight or anything, but I think we get annoyed with each other pretty quickly. And my mother, she's incredible in that she's the kind of the glue that always keeps us all together and the sane one out of all of us. It's weird because when people meet us, but we all have such different personalities. Or I tend to be more scientific, intellectual. You have my brother David, it's very business and doesn't really joke around too much. And then we have the younger brother, which is Eric, which is the baby that, cannot like him. Like everyone loves him.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
he's we don't really know what he does for a living. That he works with the family and, he shows up and we're all okay with it. It was a pretty cool mix that we have going on. So when the three of us are together, which is not very often, but when we are, it does tend to be pretty jarring for people when they talk or meet with us and that, like, how are you guys not, how are your personalities also different?
That's a beautiful thing. I can relate. I have a number of brothers, and we're all distinctly ourselves. Let's pivot into. I'm curious on your early professional work. Tell us a little bit about that, and any stories that you have that impacted you and sent you on the direction of entrepreneurial endeavors.
So early, I always worked with my family in the heating and air conditioning company. So it was actually pretty helpful in learning how businesses run. Now, granted, it was the heating and air conditioning was a small business, but then once the restaurants came along, we would work. And I remember, like, in high school, working from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., right? The cash register and being there. I think it was a night and it was after a lot of people were going to clubs and things. They kind of wanted a larger male presence right at the front. And so my brothers and I, David and I both would do that. So that's kind of where it kind of got started with, but I love it. One of the things that we're always great about, we always got paid very fairly. So as long as we worked, we got paid,
Mm,
and I think back then we got like $20 an hour,
nice.
like 20 something years ago. If you didn't work, you didn't get any money though. So they were very cool when you worked. If you didn't work, you didn't get it.
The
But
10 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift.
yeah,
You
yeah,
must
yeah.
have done some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't in the greatest of neighborhoods either. So there was always fights and, all kinds of stuff. But honestly, really, that's probably the most I learned about people
Yeah.
and how to handle situations, see when things are kind of seeing a situation happen before it does, right? And being able to kind of go in and mitigate that a little bit ahead of time, which was really helpful. But then my career path is not typical in that I started there and then I worked at the Mercantile Exchange in the NASDAQ when I was 18 years old. I worked there for a bit. Eventually, I got to the Board of Trade and was working on basically just writing algorithms around soybean option trading for uh, for a company there, and did very well. And eventually got into poker, and I played professional poker for 8 years.
Here's
For 8 years, yeah, until I met my wife playing poker. And
what are some things you learned from poker?
dude, so much. I kind of attribute most of my skill set I have today to that. I would say the ability, if people think that it's a lot about reading people, but it's not, it's not. It's really about managing risk. And that really helped me a lot. Picking spots very well. I would say in dealing with people at a table, right? When people are upset, and I tend to have a very aggressive style that will kind of annoy people, and like, but how do you keep them friendly, right? How do you manipulate the situation where, everybody still kind of likes you while you're taking money? And, I think that whole thing of learning people's personalities, seeing people be very nice 1 minute, very, angry and abusive the next because of things not going their way. I think I learned a lot about my major strength in that was that I studied more than everyone. I hated school, but I absolutely loved studying hand histories and finding tendencies and running analytics on people that I was playing. But the next time I played, I don't think I had natural talent for the game, nor do I think I have it. I think I was just able to outwork people where I could study and figure out, okay, when they do this, 80% of the time, this was the answer. Therefore, I'm going to do this in these spots. And I think that's why I was able to do so well for so long.
How old were you when you were doing this?
From 20 to 21.
You were able to live off the money you made on poker.
I did. Yeah, I did really well.
Wow.
That's how I kind of started my businesses too, was with the money from that.
Okay, tell us about your first ventures.
So there's a few fun ones. I wrote a point of sale system for restaurants. And I remember that was kind of the first thing I sold to somebody. And I remember thinking that the deal, they offered me an amount of money and I was like, yes, like, sure. Right. It was in the hundreds of thousands. And I had made a lot more money playing poker, but this felt like real money. This felt like, hey, I built something
Mhm.
and that someone just gave me money for it. I think I got obsessed with that, selling something to somebody like that. And it probably cost myself a lot of money, but it did give me that drive to want to continue and build things. I would say that for me, my major thing was always around some sort of logic, or we used to call it AI, but really it was more of a logic keys and things. And when I got into health, that's really where kind of my obsessions started to kind of come because I saw like insane inefficiencies and I just wanted to go like solve all the problems, mostly around their data or their lack thereof. And, I think I saw back in like 2012, the amount of data that was going to start to be created. I'm
Mhm.
like, all of these things are going to go into electronic health record systems. And I don't think they're ready for how much information that's going to be created here. And I'm like, how are you going to manage all of it? And that's kind of been the journey I've been on since 2012 is what do we do with all this information, especially when so much of it ends up on paper or on some digital document.
So what's the Tackle AI Inception story?
Yeah, there's like four of them. I tell a different one all the time.
The one
Um,
with the hook.
the one with the chef. So I had just been bought out of a company where we sold options to live events. The company did really, really well. And I kind of needed to figure out what I wanted to do next. I knew I wanted to build an AI and I had worked on other projects, but I wanted to kind of build something fundamentally different with my own money. And so I really didn't have a company. It was just some friends of mine and some people that we sat in my basement and I paid them. And for, I don't know, 7, 8 months, we just built the AI the way I wanted to build it, the way the foundations that I had kind of seen, whether when I was with other companies or working with other people or consulting, I would kind of see the shortcuts people were taking, right? And I get it, it's a business, right? You're like, hey, we need to work fast. I'm like, what if I don't have to work that fast? I have this thing that I just did. I don't have to worry about money or anything right now. Let me build something for real. And we did. We built something incredible. And eventually, there was a client who's still our client today. Literally our first one back in, I think, 2018, because I think it took me almost all of 2017 to the core of our current neural nets. And they uh, they wanted to pay us, and I didn't have an actual business. Yeah, it was still just me and my friends in the basement. So I remember getting a call from the guy that I had hired to be a CEO, and he's like, "Hey man, we need a business thing. What do we do? It could be anything." And I remember that he had called me on Sunday when I was watching football, and that it was just like, I don't know, do tackle. Yeah, we'll just use tackle AI. And some people think, did you get a marketing firm help you with that? Or I'm like, nope, literally off just what was on television. And yeah, that's kind of where it all kind of started, was processing medical records for a large hospital system. And to this day, we're still processing it for them, and we're doing it even better than we were in 2018.
Awesome. So what are you worried about? What are your fears in regard to going forward with Tackle AI?
I always tell people, my biggest fear always is the security, like a data breach. We deal with almost all personal health information, and when we do things for the government, it's always, the top secret stuff. And yeah, the data breach is really a big one. And I think that's why we do data breach notifications for other people, because I can kind of see it. But I can see what happens to these companies when they have to deal with a breach and when they don't have the proper insurance, and even when they have insurance, what ends up happening. And with us, the loss of trust with our clients would be an enormous thing. Data breaches always. The second thing for me is always what I call like technical debt.
Nicole,
Things that we can, yeah, technical debt. Things that we can technically fix today on our code that would take us 3 to 4 days, but in 8 months would take, because we've built so much on top. Now it will take forever to fix this problem. It's way down. It's kind of like when you keep putting band-aids on stuff,
okay.
eventually, you can't go take that bottom band-aid off anymore. And that worries me because I'm like, how much of that exists? So we constantly are reviewing that code. And because one of those, can cause, tens of millions of dollars to try to go there and fix later.
What are you enjoying the most out of this journey, specifically with Tackle AI?
So I'm the CEO, but I really don't, it's not really what I like to. I tell people I play CEO, but I like the technology more than anything. So my favorite part is coming to work, and then there's this problem that everybody's trying to solve, and getting in the middle of it, and coming up to a solution, or coming up with just crazy ideas that make no sense, and trying them, and being like, okay, that didn't work, but this one part of it, I think we were on to something. Let's hit this one part of this idea and this little kernel of something, and let's turn that into something. That for me, man, is the reason people hate me on Monday mornings, because I'm on Sunday at 2 p.m. I want to go to sleep so that it's Monday. Like I'm like, it's like the feeling I got like when you thought you were getting presents on Christmas and wanted to go to bed. I get that every Sunday because I'm really excited about the week. I'm excited about problem solving that's going to occur. The parts I dislike is the raising money, going to events, and being social, which is part of,
Sounds like a technology guy.
yeah, yeah. And it's part of the gig, right? You gotta go. And it's not that I'm bad at doing it. I can do it, and, you go and turn on your charisma and you talk to people, and I tend to do well at it, but it's very draining for me.
Yeah, yeah.
I get, I can do it for about an hour or two, and then I'm really, really exhausted. And I can work solving problems and writing code and helping with all of this stuff. I could probably do it for 16 hours and be fine. But a room full of people for an hour or two, and it's like I ran a marathon. Like I get pretty exhausted.
You're a technology guy. So let's go back to the founder CEO. So founder, like the inventor, they're kind of synonymous. Certainly inventor of the company itself, and then CEO, kind of like the person who monetizes the magic that the founder came up with. So you're at this point where you've created the magic, and now you're monetizing the magic successfully. So you've done the founder part very successfully. Now you're starting to do the CEO part very successfully. Do you want to stay in the role? Are you looking for someone else? What's that situation like?
It's weird, 'cause I don't think anybody's going to be okay with me not being CEO. Mostly because I became the mascot, right? Like I am the mascot of the company, right? You show up, I do my beard and my hair, and I kind of am what people think of when they think of us. There is an enormous machine behind me. I've got an unbelievable CTO, and I've got incredible developers, but because I'm the one that's kind of out there and I'm the one that has to be the social person, what I'm really looking for usually with people is I love getting advice for what I'm supposed to be doing. And I love all kinds of different, I want people to disagree with what I should do and
Mm-hmm.
really think of, I don't know, which way should I take it? When I always, one of the things that changed my life a lot was I Choose You. I think it came out like 2000 or 2001, something like that. That's where you can audit classes from colleges. So I would take things from like MIT and Stanford and Harvard, and I would get the same class, but from like 4 or 5 different professors, and take the parts that I liked from everybody. And that's kind of what I like doing as a CEO too, is I love people to tell me, their parts and what they see. And I try to take the best of what I see and these people. And people like talking about it. And now it's weird that people talk to me about it. But I tell people all the time, I still feel like I'm just getting started. I know that I've been at Tackle for now, 7 years, but it still feels like this company's just starting for me.
Yeah, no, it is. You're just getting rolling. It's good stuff. Like what's next? You 10. It's okay if you've 10x your revenue
Correct. Yep.
over 1 year.
Yep.
Right? Big deal. So what's next? I know executing on that work's very important, but you've been doing
Yeah.
that.
We just closed a deal that is the same amount of money as we made this year. So we already, for for 2025 have locked up.
The same
Our
amount of
revenue,
business you did this year. Good,
yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff.
And what's great is every quarter this year was more than all the money we made last year as well. So we really are, and a lot of it I attribute to we have our own stuff. Like we build our things from scratch. We're not these rappers around, ChatGPT or Claude, Gemini or things like that. That I feel it's what everybody's doing right now. So that's really helpful. My thing now is um, go take over a market, go take
Mm.
over the legal market, really penetrate healthcare a lot more. I've proven this out now inside of healthcare for a long time. Our automation is insane. I think we're going to go probably raise somewhere between 20 and $25 million at the beginning of next year. Bring in maybe double up on the amount of people we have and start also targeting other sectors. We have a lot of code that will work in other areas. My plan now is right now we have like machine learning people, and then we have, we call C# people, and we have people who do QA, and we have managers, etc. Everybody's kind of separated. I'm going to start building teams. Here's a team that does the team of 15.
Okay.
That group, that's all they do. Then I have another group. You guys process, medical documents for this place. You guys do financial information, and that's a team of 8. And I think that's what we really need to do so that people can focus. So that I want a team to all have the same goal. Right now, the goal is always create AI. So we all had that goal, and that was easy. But now things are changing in that. We're in a bunch of different industries. So I really want this team to know, hey, the end goal here is to do it. So I think that's what a lot of what's next for us. And honestly, my goal is to try to be, uh, the biggest AI company in the Midwest,
Love that.
because we don't have a lot here. And the ones that I've seen aren't really doing things the way that, again, they're just wrappers around someone else's tech. So I want to be something real that people can really use.
Love that. So you're in scale mode. What advice are you getting from advisors and maybe other entrepreneurs?
Man, tell you what, I get all kinds of stuff. And one of them I feel like are really disappointing sometimes, in that I think that being from the Midwest, being Latino, one of the things I hear is, hey man, you guys are, going to be cash flow positive here. Like you've made it. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. And, kind of scale the business, money you have coming in. And it's so weird to me because that's one of the things I've heard for a long time from people. I've heard it the whole way. Hey,
Yeah.
bootstrap, right? I'm like, why isn't that you tell the Latinos to go bootstrap, right? Why are you telling the Midwest companies to go bootstrap?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
like there's some sort of pride in being broke. I really dislike that because I'm hearing it again now. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, you guys are making millions of dollars. You have enough now to run on the money that you guys are making. I'm like, yeah, proved it worked. It proved that it could be profitable. Now let's take it, to the next thing. Now let's get to 50 million in revenue. And let's get to 100 million in revenue. But it's kind of like, hey, like sometimes I feel that people are like, hey, that's enough, right? That's as high as you go. And now go sell the companies. And
Are these VC?
yeah, I think VCs, I think by the other people, right? Other Latinos, I've seen and luckily none of my current investors are that way.
Nice.
My current investors are fantastic. I know I have um uh our largest investor from Grace Hall Partners, Joe. He's like, hey, let's figure this thing out. How do we really scale this? How do we I don't feel like I won. I feel like I just entered the game, and but for so many people, I think they have really low bars for Midwest companies or Latino companies. And I'm one of the only Latino AI companies that has been around this long and doing what we do. And yeah, man, I don't think like that. So
You're
uh,
going big. You're going for the big swing.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna be okay, right? I think a lot of times, a lot of the founders and a lot of companies like this are kind of like hungry or starving founders that are if they don't, they can't make their rent payment next month or something. If they don't get this thing done, personally, on a personal level, like I'm not. So I'm gonna keep going. A huge payday is not my attraction. Continue to working on this. Tell me if I ever sell the company, part of the things that I'll put in there is that I get to keep working. Because it doesn't matter what you give me, like things I still want to work on this. So I'd say that next for me is I want to scale this. I want to create $1 billion company, and I'm going to try to partner with the right venture capital firms to help us do that. I want to partner with the right companies, not just for monetary, but more for people that can help me then go into either different avenues or bring in customers or help me with advice and people who have kind of done it before.
Yeah, but tell me about, give us some advice on picking investors, and then follow up with talking about kind of dealing with investors, working with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because most of the time, right? I'd say that early on, you're just looking for anybody who will give you money, anybody who will believe in you.
Yeah.
And you don't really look at it too hard. I think that there was, and about 3 years ago, we started to have the ability to kind of pick who we want, right? And hey, we think these guys, I kind of like what they're doing, see the connections they have. I immediately, the first time I look at an investor, I see what other companies are in their portfolio to see if it's a company that I can work with or that would need my services. But yeah, at the beginning there, it's like, you'll take money from, you know, anybody, a guy who owns laundromats, let's go, I need 50K, that's fine. Now, dude, it's tough. Once you have investors, they are with you forever. And I've been lucky in that I have pretty good investors, but then you start to slow down, right? The quick decisions you're able to make when you don't have them on your board and when you don't have people is awesome. Now, I want to make a change. It takes me a week and a half to do it because I'm going to get board approval for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm usually looking for in investors is their current portfolio. Who do they have? What can they bring? Are they going to be able to follow on? Right? Have they followed on? Look at the history of how they've followed on. How eager are they to sell? Because there's some that just they want to come in a Series A and they want to be out, in 24 months,
Mm-hmm.
which I get. But I want to see which ones hold on for longer and actually get to, how many companies are going to be unicorns and what was their involvement. So I tend to do a lot of looking into VC firms and what they're about. But I also understand that if you're starting out, you're just going to take whatever you can, and don't feel bad if that's what you have to do at the beginning.
I'm going to pivot to AI in the sense of, let's call it like social impact. So this is high level stuff. I'm curious on what you think it's going to do to the society, economy, our daily lives. Any commentary there?
Yeah, it's weird because I'm pretty direct with this kind of stuff with people, and I think they expect something different from CEO of an AI company. The truth is, we're going to have to figure something out as a society, and what we're going to do is AI is going to take over almost every job. Like, there's not many jobs that AI won't be able.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Like
content
intellectual
creators. Yeah, and we won't compete. I have some models I tell people, like, sometimes I'm on panels and I'm like, sometimes with lawyers, and it's like 6 lawyers and me, and they're telling me like what AI is going to be to do and it's not going to do, where it struggles. And I'm like, man, it is weird that you're the one telling me. You're like, I am literally the CEO of an AI company. And it's
And
like,
with lawyers.
I'm like, it's more like you're trying to tell me what you hope is going
Yeah.
to happen. Because I'm like, I have 3 models on my servers right now that just prove everything you just said. And it happens today. We just don't know how to monetize it. So once we figure out how to monetize it, right, that's a lot of times what's going on. What the public is seeing is about 12 months behind where we actually are.
Yeah, because it's the stuff that's being commercialized.
Correct. Yeah, it's how do we commercialize this? We got to test it. We got to make sure we're not doing anything dumb with it.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is like, oh yeah, man, we have the same stuff that's going on. I mean, that's what's cool about knowing what's coming.
Anything you can tell us about, or try?
A lot of it, like with what we do with medical records, is kind of being able to tell life expectancy by giving me your medical records, picture of your face, and if I know how much money you make. And that's what's weird, right? Of all the studies we've done and all the AI going through all of this, reading through doctors' notes, the number one indicator for your life expectancy is your income. Yeah, how much money you make. That's number one. Which I'm sure life insurance companies are going to love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's things like that already exist that are unbelievably accurate. But I mean, if I told you how accurate, you would be scared. Like guessing car crashes and like just things like that based on the things that hurt you or you came in for, like if you were skydiving or you had an accident while riding a bike, how that plays into it. But once you've looked at millions of records, patterns kind of just start to emerge and really good guesses start to be made. But yeah, or just the ability to know things before a human knows them. Like me knowing what's very odd is like, even with sales, you ever notice that like you talk to somebody about, going to a trip to the Bahamas or something, and then the next day you got an ad for a trip to the Bahamas. You're like, dude, listen to me, right? And I know that it seems that way, but it's not. It's that the algorithm already knew before you that you were going to want to go to the Bahamas based on what you were looking at, what websites you were at, what you were posting on social media. Like it knew that's where that was leading. Or yeah, I talked about cat food, and then all of a sudden there was cat food. Like same thing. It's scarier. It's scarier that it was listening to you. It's that it knew before you did. That's what you want. Those are the things that are out.
So what inning are we in regard to social impact? Inning one?
Two, we're in the second inning.
Okay.
I would say that people are now aware of it. People see it. The problem is, and this is my kind of huge thing with what's going on, is no one's doing anything about it.
I mean,
And
like regulatory or
regulatory. Listen, with us, I mean, we were able, what we did, and a lot of these documents we did in healthcare, they would go to India, right? And they had thousands of people working in India that were processing these medical records. There's now 200, right? And we have 2 servers that are running those documents. So right now they're like, hey, it's fringe jobs, but it's fringe jobs right now. People who are making $2, but now we take a lot of work from paralegals too, right? And those people make like $80,000 to $100,000 a year. And next it'll be, and we'll just keep going by the time we're done with, coming after nurses and doctors and things like that. And honestly, like, when we process medical records, we do it better than humans because we don't miss them. Well, we are able to grab it and tell you, hey, these are all the things. We did a case where 7% of people were misdiagnosed, and our AI found all the misdiagnosis in 3 hours, whereas humans weren't able to find it.
so what happens? Is it going to be we're just all working with AI or completely replaced? Is it
Well,
dystopian?
eventually it's completely replaced. There's no way around it. And we kind of became a capitalist country a long time ago. We didn't really plan for this part. So I think there's going to have to be some sort of universal income for people, right? Because, jobs at McDonald's are not going to be a thing. Because
Robotics?
the next thing is, once AI gets mixed with robotics, it's kind of game over. We're not going to need construction workers. Why would we use construction workers when we could have robots with AI doing it 24/7, and then there's no risk, right? Somebody hits a robot, fine, you just lost a robot and lose a life. Right? And that's how it will be sold, will be as a way of preserving human life and not putting humans in danger. Right? That's what it's always going to be. But what we're really doing, right, is replacing human jobs with robots. Dude, and it's weird. I wish I was smart enough to know, like, what are we supposed to do here? I don't know what we're supposed to do other than people are going to need to have basic needs met. But, there are some jobs that'll get created. Who would have thought what an influencer would have been, But right now, an AI is a better influencer. Excuse me, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say, are we just going to be influencers? But and then there's the like there's influencers that are, AI generated content.
Just
So
complete podcasts that are just 2 AI talking to each other.
yeah.
And about a topic, and it's unbelievably realistic. Like, it's super scary. So, and we can't tell the context, right? I think there's a lot of things that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
As
Also,
political.
it's in the content game. We talk about how there's got to be regulation that you have to say whether or not it's been AI generated or human, like the human contact with it.
Yeah.
Some sort of differentiation of how the content was made.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's important, but it's going to get to the point where AI can just pump out so much more information.
Yeah.
So much faster content, and what's great about it is, one of the things we do as humans, right? And let's say in marketing and things is you try a little campaign, you see kind of what's going on there, you tweak it, and you try another thing. With AI, you can put out 100.
Yeah.
You start deleting the ones that aren't working and replacing them, and so you create the perfect thing, and it might only take you a day to get to the perfect marketing campaign.
Yeah. To build on top of that, I talked to this guy named David Jones, and he comes from the legacy advertising world. Like he was a high up, like global CEO of Havas, which is in advertising. And he started a company. It's essentially a marketing technology company. He's like, we are not an agency. they kind of do things like agencies, but they're at the point where they can, they have the AI generated content. There's prompts, of course, but once you put it into motion, it deploys the assets, it receives the data on the performance, it adjusts the assets based on the data, and then redeploys it, so on and so forth. I mean, we're here.
Well, I mean, I'll put it to you differently. Like at Tackle, we don't even write our own prompts for the stuff that we have on our own. Sometimes we auto generate 300 prompts for the same problem to see
Okay.
which one gives us a better solution and a better
Yeah.
answer. And then we create, and because it's all our own tech, we're not paying for, all of the different prompts and questions, and it's all our own hardware as well. It's literally our own servers. So yeah, man, we generate that. We generate the prompts too, like from scratch every time with new information. And sometimes, hey, I got new information. Now change the prompt with this new info. Now do this. Hey, that just gave me some new information. Now do this.
Yeah.
And we don't touch it, man. It's pretty insane now what we're having with like super agents and stuff.
So how do you think about your business? Like you're going through this scale, AI is coming for jobs. How are you going to look at, keeping your operations, lean through artificial intelligence?
Right now, I don't exactly have a ban on using AI for coding, but I do have a ban on starting it. But what's amazing is that we can write a chunk of code, have AI analyze our code to make sure that it goes with the style and the way that we like to write things.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally taught our own AI, hey, this is what our code is, this is how it should be structured. And then just say, did I do anything wrong here? That used to take me sometimes weeks to find. We find it in like 3 seconds now, right? Hey, you did X, right? You contradicted these two things. Or hey, there's a memory leak. Yeah, man, there's a whole bunch. I think here inside of within Tackle, all of our stuff is super custom to what we're doing, but I can see how other people as well are kind of using this to stay kind of lean, where I don't need as many developers because my QA people, my testers, I don't need as many because I'm using AI to do this
Mm-hmm.
and code reviews. And I appear much smarter than I am now because I can have AI code review things for me and then tell me the parts that I think should be optimized. And then I can show up, like, hey, what about if we did this when this optimized, X and Y, right? I mean, dude, you could fake your way through a job now. If I wasn't an actual developer, I could fake my way through it right now just by putting things through code, through models that understand code.
So something, yeah, just build on top of that. Something we're doing is like we we'll have a discovery meeting with the client. So we're in the creative business. So gathering their vision and things they want, in the assets that we're creating for them. We gather that information. Sometimes we use like a AI tool to gather the notes, sometimes just personally typing them out, combination of both, but we'll take that information with a prompt that we have on ChatGPT to get us off the ground for creative concepts for
Yeah.
those assets. And it does a good job, like a legit job. There have been times where we made it, combed it for, small things to fix up and sent it to the client. And they're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then that's literally with those notes, it takes a minute to get it back. What would take me at least an hour
Yeah. Yeah,
to have done.
absolutely. And that's exactly what like large language models are for. Exact same. There's some things that people are trying to use them for that they're good for, and like looking for specific information in data, it's bad at. But in summarization, dude, it's incredible. And in finding like important details that, and there's a whole other thing with it because we're multimodal work. It's going to start taking into consideration the tone of voice, the excitement levels in your voice so that it actually will give more emphasis to that. That's coming, that's being built. A lot of, because in legal, they actually use it for depositions, right? To figure out when you think you're lying, when your voice goes softer, when did it go higher, when did you look away, when you answer. AI is going to start doing that for like things like this when you and I are talking right now. And when summarizing, we'll pay attention to the parts where there's more inflection in our voices.
Amazing. Oh my God, people are going to be analyzing all the content like others are making.
Oh yeah, no, always, absolutely. It's again, there's a whole thing in legal. There's a thing that's really helpful in healthcare with that as well. And we'll see. We're gonna start seeing. Again, it's just I told people a year ago like where we would be today. We're a little further than I thought we would be. Even I'm off on how quickly things are occurring Now we're having reasoning, right? We didn't have reasoning before. For the longest time, we just had guess the next word, which is what large language models were. Now, literally, you can solve riddles. And right now, I think we have about a 12-year-old kid. It's pretty smart. But by next year, we'll have a grown adult.
Wow, I love that analogy. Let's pivot and finish off with some words of wisdom to fellow entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Yeah, getting
I think
started. What's your advice to someone getting started?
so. Number one, this whole work-life balance thing is not a thing. It's so if you're coming into, I'm going to start a business because I get to make my own hours and I'll have time to be with my family. The opposite is what it is. You are going to be needed way more than you think you're going to be needed. It's a fallacy. I don't know anyone who's ever succeeded who wasn't up early and went to sleep late. I don't know anybody. Don't get bogged down by procedures and processes. Just go do it. Like, go figure it out. If you're smart and you can solve problems, put yourself in those situations and solve them. Because a lot of times we'll get stuck in the planning of things and we leave that for big companies. The reason that as startups we do well is because we're agile and we can just go, and be quick. But I tell people all the time, like, I see kind of young people that think it's like some sort of glamorous lifestyle. It is brutal. It's sick to do. You have to love it. If you don't legitimately love it, it's going to be tough because you're away from family. You're away from, you're dealing with lawyers all the time and they're the worst. And 90% of the time you're doing stuff you don't want to do, but things that you have to do.
Mhm.
So I would say, really know what you're getting into and know that you're going to hear no 1,000 times before you have someone say yes to you, whether it's a client or investor or whoever. They don't really define whether or not you have a good idea or whether or not, it doesn't define you in any way. You have to have an almost narcissistic belief in yourself. And if you don't have that, if you have any doubt in yourself or doubt in what you're doing, stop. And if you're trying to start a tech company and you're not a technology person, also just full stop. Don't do. It's weird that in my profession, what I do, it's the only profession where people think they can do it without knowing. Like, you wouldn't start a bakery if you didn't have it. For some reason, people think they can start a tech company and not know anything about technology. So at minimum, get somebody that you trust, that you're positive knows technology before you start. Sorry, I gave you a whole bunch there. That's
No, no,
like,
it's great. How about best advice you've got?
oh, man, you know what's weird is the best advice I ever got was from somebody that I used to work with. He had asked me to analyze two companies for him, and I told him, "Hey, this one company, it's bigger. They have a rock star CEO, really cool guy, but their tech is complete. It's nothing. Like, it's make believe. It's not very. There's this other company, young, unbelievably smart. Their tech was insane. Really big fan of it was a new kid. I think he was like 26, 27. And this other guy was in his 40s and yeah, had two pretty large exits already. And when I told him this, he said, okay, great, thanks. And he ended up investing in the company that I told him not to invest in. And when I asked him why that was, why did you even do this? He's like, oh yeah, I needed to know, how far along this other company was. When you're hiring, when you're betting on somebody, putting your own money into, you always bet on winners. Like, the company doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That person matters. And yeah, man, sometimes on paper I will see people that I'm hiring and I'm just like, man, they've done a lot of successful things. And I kind of like, attitude isn't that great, but super, and they always end up being like rock stars, right? This company, by the way, is now worth like $30 billion. And they ended up buying the company that I said that was the better company. And yeah, the guy made a whole bunch of money. That's the best advice I ever got, was always bet on winners. And I try to do that in my companies, not judge people simply because of, certain things that I enjoy or things that I put a lot of value on. I'll try to put value on people and what their history is and what they've been able to accomplish.
who's a founder that you admire?
Who's the founder that I admire? Um, it's so weird because like founders, like the ones that made it, the big ones, have huge flaws. The majority of us are narcissists. Somebody like Steve Jobs, I admire his vision so much, right? His unrelentless pursuit of just like perfection and not letting people sway him, right? But then, he was a jerk. I love Elon Musk. Same sort of thing, right? Vision is intelligence. ability to get so many people to get behind what he's doing and create such amazing stuff. Like that's not an easy thing to do. But then, yeah, but then, he's crazy too. But there's, I would say, there was a guy a long time ago, forgetting his name, but he started a company where he everybody got paid the same amount of $80,000. It was a credit card processing company, including himself. Like he then went down to 80,000. The person who did cleaning, they were 80,000. Everybody was 80,000. And the company grew like insanely big. No one really. He took most of his money in options. Dude, just everyone saying, "Hey, you're crazy." Then he ended up doing some crazy domestic violence things. But I don't know. I can't think of anywhere I'm like they're just a normal person that's succeeded, because normally to get to that level,
It'll be a little
there's
weird.
there's just usually something kind of pretty, I don't know, wild about you, because the amount of things you got to leave in your waist is kind of crazy. But that's a good question. I'm gonna think about it more because they're out there somewhere. I'm gonna go look one up and then figure it out.
Sergio, thanks for joining me. Anything else you want to express?
No, man, thanks for having me. This was fun. That very rarely are the interviews that people do with me, like just me in general, is usually very targeted towards just AI or just what we do at Tackle. So it's like, honestly, it was like therapy. So I really appreciate it.
Dude, I love doing this. I mean, I make content for a living, but for some reason I haven't committed to the production value of these interviews. But I just love doing these interviews. So thank
Yeah,
you. It's
no,
therapeutic too.
I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks, Sergio.
Thank you, Chris. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.